Lawyers, which fictional villain would you have the easiest time defending? Robbie Rotten. I mean, his crimes mostly just aren't. Edit, did none of you see the word mostly? The only actual serious crime I can remember off the top of my head was the time he snuck onto Sporticus' blimp and started effing around with it. Trespassing, grand theft auto, if that even applies to blimps, probably grand larceny if it doesn't, reckless driving, and probably other related charges. Any person who, under circumstances not constituting larceny shall, without the consent of the owner, take, use or operate or cause to be taken, used or operated, an airplane or other aircraft or its equipment, for his own profit, purpose or pleasure, steals the same, is guilty of a Class H felony. What about when he poisoned the hero with a sugar overdose? Ernst took him prisoner. That looks like kidnapping, and maybe battery. Does Dr. Doom need legal defense? As the ruler of his own country, does diplomatic immunity cover all of his actions? Pretty much, that's how he keeps getting away with things in the comics. He's the legal sovereign leader of a respected modern country, so can't be arrested for fear of provoking a war. They did try a few times replacing him with someone who has a better legal right to the country, but they always turn out to crazy tyrants, as opposed to Doom, who is generally and at least a reasonable dictator, so usually he either wins it back. As opposed to Doom, who is generally and at least reasonable dictators, Doom is a dick to everyone outside of Latveria. But by all accounts, Latveria is a pretty nice place to live if you don't mind the autocracy. Oh yeah, provided you can put up with his egotism and restrictions, the overall standard of living seems pretty good. The trains are almost certainly running on time. Plus, before Doom it was a backwater tiny Eastern European nation that had changed hands every few decades to increasing worse options. Now it's a major global superpower with some of the most advanced technology on the planet. Whatever your opinion of Doom personally, on some level that must feel good. Wasn't it just the remains of the former ruling class of Latvia that hates him and his country? From what I recall, his own people love him as their savior and protector. Oh yeah, the people love Doom. He went into a self-imposed exile and a cruel, dictator took over and a rebellion immediately broke out and the resistance went to find Doom. The leader, who convinced Doom to come back and rule again, was given superpowers, named Victorious, and she is his right-hand man now. And apparently, in the next couple of issues, his soon-to-be bride. Isn't Doom evil from our point of view primarily because he won't stop to rule the world because he has seen a vision that humanity will die without him ruling it? Super sad that his movie appearances never really leaned into that. Most of the old-school Scooby-Doo villains. They didn't really do anything other than scare people off of private property. Most of them are doing so for illegal reasons though, like insurance fraud or tax evasion or whatever. And they would have gotten away with it too, if it weren't for you meddling kids. When I was a kid, I remember being devastated in the movie Big Daddy when the social worker took Zach and Cody away from Adam Sandler, but after watching it again as an adult, although still sad, I'm thinking, yeah, of effing course they're going to take him away from this stranger. So the social worker from Big Daddy is a layup case. Not to mention Sandler's character literally lied to social services so his unemployed, lazy ass could have a child. Dude should have been arrested. They were going to arrest him at the end, and then for some reason Jon Stewart saying he was the dad of Julian totally absolves Sandler of fraud, for no reason. He was TV's most trusted newsman, of course, they believed him. I think it was because Sandler was posing as Jon Stewart's character under his direction. In the same vein, Mrs. Doubtfire. Daniel couldn't hold down a job or apartment, so of course he wasn't in a position to have joint custody. But then he literally dresses up as an old woman and deceives his entire family to have time with his kids. Then when they take the kids away, of course they're going to remove the children from someone who's unstable enough to see assuming a new identity and lying to my whole family is a better alternative to get my crap together so I can see my kids. There's a great fake trailer of Mrs. Doubtfire as a thriller movie. Mrs. Doubtfire is a thriller movie. Web link. I wipe my own ass, I wipe my own ass. Zack and Cody? Julian/Frankenstein was played by twins. Those twins grew up to have their own show, The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Definitely Lex Luthor. 99% of the time uses henchmen who won't talk, and he can definitely pay my exorbitant bills. He would probably just defend himself in court. Also, he has to win at all costs. He's a sore Luthor. I feel like Lex is smart enough to know when to defer to someone else's expertise, but he does have a big ego, so maybe. So as a comic reader, Lex actually does respect people that know their crafts well, even if they aren't on his intellectual level. If he were to appear in court and the charges were serious enough, he would hire the best legal mind and listen to his advice earnestly and float some legal maneuvers he might have found out about towards the lawyer. As pointed out by /Israel TB, Luthor would most likely hire the best legal minds. Hell, he could probably get all of Harvard Law if he wanted to. If for some reason Lex couldn't intimidate or buy the judge/jury/witnesses/cops/close family members, he'd spend about a day researching the relevant laws and cases and figure he could do a better job than any normal person, but would hire/blackmail a super lawyer like a Genie, or Daredevil, She-Hulk, etc. if he genuinely thought he might lose. Of course, doing that would backfire on him and end up being a greater threat than facing the law ever could. Edit: apparently being the most famous Marvel lawyer doesn't necessarily mean you're very good at it. I assumed he had Phoenix Wright levels of lawyering skill going for him, but apparently not. I always thought Daredevil was actually only a mediocre lawyer. He's a decent lawyer if you're broke, but there's a reason why the X-Men have She-Hulk on retainer instead. You all are missing the point. Lex is from the DC universe. Do you honestly think Lex wouldn't go to a different universe if it meant getting the best? I hate you and you need to leave. Have my upvote as a parting gift. To be fair, Lex Luthor is also right. Soups is a danger to the planet. He is a walking nuke and he invites disaster by summoning other walking nukes. All you need to do is look at any alternative Earth's evil Superman to see that Lex, although clearly evil and his ends justify the means approach, is absolutely justified for fearing Superman for the sake of the Earth. However, one could argue Lex enjoys power for power's sake and cares less about saving Earth and more about being top dog, and Superman clearly stands as an obstacle to him being the apex predator on Earth. However, one could argue Lex enjoys power for power's sake and cares less about saving Earth and more about being top dog. Lex, I could have saved the world if it wasn't for you. Superman, you could have saved the world years ago if it mattered to you, Luthor. Lex, you're right. What people seem to often overlook is that Lex doesn't think Superman is a threat to the world. He thinks Superman is a threat to him. Despite all of his efforts in life, Lex's power is fragile and fleeting. And compared to someone like Superman, it's even worse. That's why he hates Superman so much. Because Superman shows Lex how weak he is, and it drives him insane with envy. In fact, when Lex became an Orange Lantern, he admitted that what he wanted most in the world was to be Superman. Which Wonder Woman rolled her eyes at? Yeah. We all know. To this day, there's yet to be a Lex portrayed as I want to see him. In mainstream media, there's an Elseworlds comic for everything. A man who rose to power out of his ruthless need to control, his fear of anything he can't control, driven increasingly paranoid when presented with someone who cannot be subdued and refuses to submit. A man who is increasingly exasperated and frustrated as society adulates a man who, in his eyes, flaunts accountability and acts without consideration for consequence, and increasingly finds himself on the fringe as his concerns are dismissed, taking increasingly desperate measures to try and rein in this menace. Some adaptations have come close, but they always devolve into cartoonish wealth-driven supervillainy. I want to see a Lex who is genuinely concerned for humanity and is flat-out terrified of Superman because he can't be controlled. I want a sympathetic Lex. I doubt they do it in a mainstream adaptation, but I want a Lex who is ultimately right. I want Act 3 to see Superman succumb to the ultimate power he wields, and the people of the Earth, in desperation, turn to now criminal Lex to liberate them from the alien menace. That went off on more of a tangent than I expected. Fact remains, I've yet to see the Superman/Lex dynamic I want. That would never happen in a Superman movie. But a Lex Luthor movie. That would be awesome. Only I don't want Lex to be right. I want it to be about Lex's slow descent into madness, and ultimately he sets up a plan with so much collateral damage that he looks around and realizes he is the menace he thought Superman was. I want Superman to barely be in this movie. Just on the periphery. This. I like the first idea, where Superman eventually goes rogue, but frankly, that's been done fairly often, though usually in alternate worlds type stories. Far more do I like the idea that Lex is right, in that if Superman goes bad he'll be a problem, but Supes never actually does, and it is Lex against this imagined menace. And, as someone posited, the story should center on Lex, here, not Superman. The audience should never be sure if what he's doing is wise preparation or paranoia, because if Superman does go bad. But will he? Michael Rosenbaum in Smallville is still my favorite Lex. I felt he kind of hit some of these notes. Easily, the best Lex. Mojo Jojo. This one is good because typically animals can't commit crimes. They'd have to establish his legal personhood first. Animals may not be capable of committing crimes, but then they have no civil rights either, such as a right to a trial, or to legal representation. If you rely on non-personhood as a defense, he gets sent to a zoo at best, or at worst put down. It's the defense that wants to prove personhood, not the state. That's an interesting catch-22. If he's a person, then he's subject to the law. If he's not a person, he doesn't have human rights. Lawyer here. Light from Death Note. The guy likes to write names of dead people in a notebook, so what? Morbid hobby but not illegal. I don't think it's possible to establish a cause-effect nexus between writing a name and people dying. And saying, well, it's magic will not hold in court. Even if you could prove the Death Note is a weapon, which is basically what L has to do, is there any way to absolve Light by putting the blame on the demon? Like parents who leave a gun around the house and a kid finds it and shoots someone, it's the parent's fault for not keeping the dangerous thing away from the lesser being who obviously can't handle it. That would be complicated. Light is old and mature enough to know what he's doing, and it's not like he writes names by accident, so the blame is 100% on him. But, since the demon, what was his name? I can't remember, has given him the weapon and he's just looking, he can probably be charged too, depending on the laws that apply. Ryuk was the name I think, now I have to watch the show again, Well, the entire story is more or less about finding the perpetrator and gathering enough hard evidence to arrest and convict them, since the law enforcement side very quickly deduces through evidence that someone located in the general area where Light lives is killing convicted criminals through some novel, likely supernatural means. Dr. Doofenshmirtz. All of his inventions ultimately only end up stealing or damaging the creations of 2 kids, so he could probably be let out with a theft charge. Really, he's just a lonely, unloved man trying to be seen in the world. Good thing he has his therapy platypus. In some cases, his inventions could actually benefit society. I'm pretty sure there was one episode where someone took one of his innators and it became a machine used by eye doctors to fix eye problems. That did happen, but then he made an innator to do the opposite so they would go get their eyes fixed, then he would get more royalties checks. True, but it also seems like Oka doesn't want him to be arrested and so he had sort of a legal immunity. We know that Perry's hack collect data on all his inventions so that Oka can replicate them. All his inventions work as intended, he just doesn't use them properly. Think of the leaps and bounds he must have made in the science field and how his inventions can be put to new use. Not to mention he is completely unaware of the benefit he makes and that he doesn't receive any rewards for his contributions to the scientific world. Sounds like he needs a prosecutor, not a defense attorney. He needs a plaintiff lawyer who tried his best to make sure his daughter has the happiest life with him being involved. The Wicked Witch of the West. She was angry with Dorothy, but then again Dorothy dropped a house on her sister and then grave robbed the witch's sister's body, with Glinda's help. The shoes were rightfully the witch's anyway, presuming she was her sister's only heir and her sister died intestate. All the witch wanted was for Dorothy to apologize and return the slippers she stole. Everything else that happened was the result of the witch's reasonable attempts to defend herself and her property against Dorothy's killing, theft, and trespass. It would depend on the legal status of Dorothy's companions. I'm pretty sure that you can't attempt to burn someone to death because they are traveling with someone who stole your shoes, even if they are attempting to prevent you from harming the person carrying stolen property. She just sent down a fireball near him. You might be able to argue tortious assault, or reasonable foreseeability leading to culpability for negligence, but it doesn't appear to be an intentional battery. And she could argue that she was using the tools at her disposal to attempt to persuade Dorothy to return the slippers. Web link. Can you really prove intent and say that Dorothy dropped the house on her sister? I agree with you on the other parts, but there was no intent to kill the witch and she wasn't in control of the trajectory of the house. She was taking shelter when her house was transported with her in it. The house accidentally killed the sister, Dorothy just happened to be inside it. When you take out the killing, the Wicked Witch of the West went a little overboard, in my opinion. Those monkeys are terrifying. Other than taking shoes off the dead body, which I can't remember now if she physically removed them or if Glinda magic ed them onto her feet, Dorothy acted reasonably. I think the crux of his point is the shoes. You can't just take shoes off a corpse and get made when the new legal owner wants them back. Even if someone else loots the shoes, that doesn't make them legally your shoes. Yes, but even stealing someone's shoes doesn't mean they can sick their terrifying pets on you with the intent to because you harm or frighten you. That's an excessive response to a property dispute. Define easy as time defending. If you define it as I think they have an easy case to win, then probably Gaston, since hunting a beast that is a threat to members of your town isn't a crime. Remember, Beast did lock up Belle's dad and there's no reason to believe that Beast couldn't go evil again during the inevitable divorce. If you mean, the one I'm going to most enjoy defending, then pick the richest one. It's a criminal client. Write me a check and don't call me every 10 damn minutes from the jail and I'm a happy camper. Plus the whole town was in on the angry mob. Try finding an impartial jury in that small provincial town. The Beast is the feudal lord though, does that mean he acts as judge? Yeah, I think it would go up a level to the king, and the king is not siding with the peasants. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.